One of the major causes of death in the Mount Everest and other Himalayan peak is altitude sickness. You can train as hard as you can while you are at home, but when you are up in the Himalaya, you feel weak, miserable, because your body is not acclimatized. And to acclimatize, you have to spend significant amount of time in the high altitude. Not many people have this kind of privilege. I've been following Oxen Advantage for a while, and they have an exercise called breath hold exercise that basically simulate high altitude while you are sitting at home. That means you can acclimatize while you are at home without going up in the mountain in the high altitude. At least it is what they claim. Many people claim that it is as good as sleeping in the altitude tent. Recently, a climber, Andrew Shekau, broke the world record by climbing Mount Everest from sea level to the summit within a span of less than 4 days. His secret for climbing Mount Everest in a speed time was altitude tent. He spent thousands of hours sleeping in the altitude tent, which made his body ready to climb Mount Everest without going through any acclimatization. Oxen Advantage claims that their breath hold exercise can simulate the altitude anywhere between 4,500 to 5,500 meter, and it may not look really high up if you are climbing 8,000 peak, but for someone who's climbing 6,000 or 7,000 peak, I think it is a great deal. For this reason, I decided to give it a try. For my next expedition in the Himalaya, which stands at 6,300 meter peak, I decided to not to go on acclimatization track and instead do these breath hold exercise and see if my body can actually acclimatize without spending much time in the upper Himalaya. For this exercise, the only equipment you need is oximeter, and make sure you check your blood oxygen from time to time, and it should not go below 70%. If it goes below 70%, you should stop the exercise right there and start breathing normally. At the beginning of this exercise, you inhale and exhale normally. It doesn't have to be deep breath. Then you pinch your nose to hold your breath and start walking for 10 paces. After 10 paces of walk, start breathing normally for like 2 or 3 times. Then you continue to round 2 where you pinch your nose again to hold your breath and walk for 20 paces. After 20 paces of walk, start breathing normally 3 to 4 times. It is at this point you might feel the air hunger, and make sure to check your blood oxygen saturation level. If it go below 70%, you need to breathe normally for longer, or else you can continue with the round 3 where you hold your breath for 30 paces. Then in round 4 you hold your breath for 40 paces, and in round 5 you hold your breath for 50 paces. Only goal of this exercise is to maintain the SpO2 level of blood anywhere between 70 to 90%, which is like simulating high altitude, like breathing in the thin air. Because when you go up in the Himalaya, your SpO2 level goes down. You want your body to respond to these hypoxic conditions and make necessary changes that will lead to the acclimatization to the high altitude. For my expedition, I modified this exercise a little bit. Instead of walking during the breath hold, I started running a little bit, like jogging, or sometime I would do squats, sometime I would do stair climbing or step up. This way I would have more control over my SpO2 level. If I feel that I'm going too fast or my air hunger is too much or SpO2 is falling below 70%, I would take rest or breathe more. Otherwise, I will continue doing these exercises. I did this exercise for 21 days. Every session lasts for 30 to 50 minutes. I did multiple rounds of it, so I could feel that I am actually acclimatizing while I'm sitting at home. During these sessions, on some occasion, I had my SpO2 go even below 50%, and that was because there is a delayed response on oximeter. So you don't get the real-time reading, it is actually delayed. So it happens and it's not a problem. You can always take recovery breath, more recovery breath, that will lead to increase in SpO2 level. At the end, my average SpO2 was around 73 or 74%, and I felt that I was doing good and was ready to go up in the Himalaya. Before going on big expedition to 6,300 meter peak, I decided to go on a track to see if my body has already acclimatized. For this one, I chose a 36 kilometer track where the highest elevation was above 3,700 meter. During this trek, I was joined by one of my friend. He is a yoga practitioner. He's practicing yoga for about 4 years every day. He does these breathing yoga exercise, which is quite opposite to what I was doing in past 21 days, that was holding my breath to improve my performance in the high altitude. So it was interesting for me to compare my performance with him. During our hike, we documented our SpO2 level. The first reading I took was at an elevation of 3,700 meters, the highest elevation, and my SpO2 was about 82 to 84%, and my friend had the same, somewhere close to 84% of blood oxygen saturation. When you go up in the high altitude for the first time, your SpO2 level drops down, and within few hours you will see the rise in SpO2 level. That's because your body takes some time to acclimatize. At 3,500 meter, I took another reading and it was about 78%. The SpO2 drop from 82 to 78 was surprising to me, even spending few hours in the high altitude. The result was contrary to what I was expecting. During our return, we reached the highest elevation one more time. At this time, I took one more reading after spending 6 hours in the high altitude above 3,500 meters. My SpO2 level reached about 74%. It was terrible. At same point, I measured my friend's SpO2 level and it was surprisingly somewhere closer to 88%. It seems like his yoga was doing very well than my breath hold exercise. At that point, I realized Oxygen Advantage high altitude simulation method may not be very effective in acclimatizing our body to high altitude. During my expedition to 6,000 peak in Himalaya, I went on acclimatization track, often climbing high and sleeping low and continuously monitoring my SpO2 level. I realized that my body was not actually acclimatized at home, but actually acclimatizing while I was climbing up. Initially, it was around 80 or 78%, but then after spending more than 2 nights at same elevation, it goes above 85 or somewhere around 90%. And that's how our body acclimatizes after spending significant amount of time in the high altitude. During these 21 days, I made lots of notes, how I was feeling, what was my heart rate, what was my SpO2 level during rest, what was happening, any complication or anything, so I could confidently say if it worked or not. And right now I'm satisfied with my research and my practice, and I can say that these exercises are not going to help. There is a reason why it does not work, because science does not support it. According to the science, to acclimatize your body you actually need EPO. EPO is an erythropoietin. These are hormones that are produced in kidney in response to hypoxia. In order to produce EPO in our body, it is required to spend at least 6 hours in a hypoxic environment, which is not possible through these exercise of breath hold, where we barely last more than an hour in hypoxic environment. With that being said, I'm still going to practice Oxygen Advantage breath hold exercise. It is not going to help me in acclimatizing, but it is going to build endurance. It is going to build lactose tolerance. During my expedition, I witnessed the benefit of doing Oxygen Advantage. I would love to know if anybody else have tried these high altitude simulation exercise by Oxygen Advantage and have seen the benefit of these exercise in high altitude anywhere above 3,000 meter. I would love to know about that. And that's all for this video. Thank you for watching.